plant died in under 4 hours. No wilting, no gradual curl, just blackened stems like it had been burned from the inside out. I didn't say anything, just moved it to the sink and washed the glass. He asked later if I'd enjoyed the smooth that morning. I smiled. It was great. My name is Clara Duval. I'm 38 years old. I used to be a trauma counselor. Now, I water plants and drink what my husband puts in front of me. Ethan started making smoothies 6 months ago. Out of nowhere. Said it was part of his wellness routine. Said he wanted to take care of me. Said I'd done enough taking care of others. He was right. I'd spent 12 years dealing with survivors. Women who didn't leave when they should have. Women who saw red flags and called them sunrises. I burned out the day I had to talk a woman through calling 911 while her husband was asleep in the next room. After that, I quit. Ethan was supportive. He told me to rest. Said he'd handle everything. He meant it. Groceries, bills, prescriptions, all under his name now. At first, it felt like love. Now it feels like hospice. The smoothies started with banana, then spinach, then blueberry and flax. Always some trendy new powder from a jar with no label. He'd bring it in before I even left bed. Here's something good, he'd say. Make you feel lighter. And I did. Too light, too floaty. Like I was always 5 seconds behind the world. I blamed burnout. Blamed myself. Women always do. 3 weeks in, I started forgetting things. Little things. My phone pin. The name of my old coworker. Whether I'd taken my meds that morning. You've been off lately, Ethan said once, handing me the glass. Maybe we should up your dosage. He said it like a joke. He always did. I started writing things down. Not in a diary. He'd find that. I used an old psychology textbook and hollowed out the center. Hid a Blackfield notebook inside. Wrote in code, switched languages. He didn't know I spoke French. Didn't know I remembered every patient I ever worked with. Didn't know how many of them used silence as a weapon. The first red flag was the vitamin. I watched him drop it in the sink when he thought I wasn't looking. Said he gave me the wrong one. I smiled and nodded. The second flag was Milo. Our dog. 13 years old, still sharp. Still barking at squirrels like he owned the world. He collapsed on the kitchen floor one morning, shaking. I held him while he seized. By the time Ethan got home, Milo was dead. Must have been age, he said, scratching his head. Happens fast sometimes. The vet disagreed. She said it looked like poisoning. I poured the next smoothie into the sink when he wasn't looking. Same one the dog had licked from my glass the day before he died. That's when I started collecting. Notebooks, photos, audio clips, one smoothie at a time, poured into a stainless steel thermos. Frozen, dated, labeled. I ordered a lab kit under a fake name. Paid cash. Kept the box under the crawl space behind the laundry machine. Ethan never did laundry. He noticed I'd been skipping drinks. You feeling okay? He asked one morning, placing the glass on my bedside table. Just not hungry, I said. Maybe something's off. He nodded. Maybe your system's adapting. I'll tweak the blend. That day's smoothie was sweeter than usual. I poured it into the plant. Watched it all afternoon. The soil turned gray before sundown. I didn't panic. Didn't scream. Just marked the plant with a yellow sticker. The same kind I used to put on trauma reports. Category A, active threat. I started recording our mornings. Hid a mic in the salt shaker. Listened back while he showered. You're too alert lately, he said once on tape. Might need to bring her down a little more. He was talking to himself. Or maybe not. One night I heard him on the phone. She's almost ready, he said. His voice was calm, like he was talking about a roast in the oven. I didn't confront him. I wrote it down and froze another glass. The next morning, he brought the smoothie early. I was still half asleep. Added something special today, he whispered. I smiled. So did he. Then he kissed my forehead and walked out of the room. I got up, walked to the freezer, added the glass to the row, sealed the lid, labeled it Day 39, Special Blend. Then I reached under the bed, pulled out the envelope. Inside, a burner phone, a USB stick, a blood test report, and 2 photos of blackened houseplants, and the name of a detective who owed me a favor. He still thinks I'm drinking the smoothies. I still tell him they taste amazing. Tomorrow, I'll call the lab again. And I'll pick a new plant. The plant wasn't the only thing dying. My handwriting had started to tremble. Nothing major. Not at first. Just a slow unraveling. The kind of thing you tell yourself is from lack of sleep or too much caffeine. You lie to yourself before you let the truth take shape. But I watched it happen across 10 journal entries, my loops narrowing, pressure fading. I'd always pressed hard with my pen. It made my words feel more real. Now the ink floated on the page like it wasn't mine at all. That was the final push. Not the smoothies, not the dying dog, not the whisper on the phone or the gaze that stayed a little too long when I said I didn't finish my glass. It was the handwriting, the part of me that still tried to show up each day. When it started failing, I realized he wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to erase me. I scheduled the blood test on a Tuesday. Used a name I hadn't said out loud in years. My grandmother's maiden name, folded inside an old emergency credit card from before the marriage. It was still active. Ethan never liked checking statements from before him. The clinic was private, unlisted, a friend of a friend who owed me a favor. I brought the frozen smoothie sample in a thermos, double sealed, told her I was worried I'd been misdiagnosed, asked for a full toxicology scan. She didn't ask questions, just handed me the consent form. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled. "I will be." While I waited for the results, I tested a theory. I opened the medicine cabinet and examined my daily vitamins, the ones Ethan insisted I take with the smoothie. 3 capsules, soft gel, looked normal, smelled faintly of peppermint. I took one and gently twisted it open over a white ceramic plate. It spilled chalky powder, too fine for what it should have been. I repeated the test on all 3. Same results. The real brands had clear granules. These didn't. I took a photo, then compared it to reference images. They were counterfeit. That night, I told him I'd like to get back into a routine. "Something structured," I said. "Maybe I'll start journaling again." He looked up from his laptop a beat too long before replying. "You think you're ready for that?" I nodded. "I feel sharper. I think the smoothies helped." He smiled. "See? I told you." Then he stood and walked over, slid an arm around my shoulder. "Everything's getting better." I leaned into it and placed one hand gently on his wrist, the way you'd comfort someone right before they died. The blood work came back 3 days later. The doctor didn't call. She came to the house, knocked, said she had paperwork in a manila envelope and wanted to explain it in person. Ethan wasn't home. We sat at the patio table in the backyard. She didn't sugarcoat it. "Traces of low-dose sedatives," she said, "diazepam analogs, and something we haven't identified yet, possibly synthetic." She handed me a second sheet. "This was from the smoothie?" I nodded. We ran 3 full assays. It contains a non-commercial chemical compound, neuroinhibitor class, possibly homebrewed. She tapped the paper gently. "If you hadn't stopped drinking them when you did?" She didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need her to. Ethan called that afternoon from the car. "Want anything from the store?" "Surprise me," I said. He laughed. I didn't. That night, I found the false medical files. They were on our shared desktop, inside a folder labeled Taxes 2022. Like I wouldn't look. Like I didn't remember organizing every tax file since we met. Inside were PDF scans of fake valuations, dates from 6 months prior, signed by a therapist I'd never seen, Dr. Karen Ellison, trauma specialist. The document said I suffered from paranoia, emotional dysregulation, hallucinatory episodes, memory delusions, impulsive financial behavior. One form claimed I tried to overdose in December. That month, I'd had the flu. I read through all 8 files, line by line, each more clinical, more damning than the last. Each one built a story. The unstable wife, drifting into psychosis, incapable of independent care. Each one created a reality I hadn't lived. I printed them, labeled them Exhibit B. The next morning, I asked if we could go away together. "Somewhere quiet," I said. "I think it'd help." He tilted his head slightly. "I've actually been thinking the same thing." He smiled. "I found a cabin." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed on the couch, phone in hand, waiting. At 2:12 a.m., I heard him come down the stairs. I stayed still. He opened the cabinet below the sink. The blender was still out. He poured liquid into a small vial, sealed it, placed it in a pouch. I watched him do it through the crack in the kitchen door. He put the pouch in his briefcase, then turned off the lights and walked back upstairs. That morning, I called in a favor. His name was Marcus Gentry, ex-cop, now freelance investigator. He owed me for something I did 12 years ago, back when his daughter was testifying in a domestic case and needed a trauma assessment. I sent him the blood work, the smoothie analysis, the fake therapy records, and the recordings. He didn't reply right away. But that night, I got a text. "I've seen setups before. This is different. This is clinical, deliberate, I'm in." Ethan gave me the trip details the next day. "We'll leave Friday," he said. "No signal out there, but it's beautiful. Stars you won't believe." I smiled. "Can't wait." I bought a new plant, cactus this time, hardy, tougher. I poured 3 ounces of the smoothie onto it. It lasted 7 hours, then collapsed in on itself like wet paper. I printed the time-stamped photos, added them to the journal, wrote in the margin, Test 7. Lethal in concentrated volume, highly toxic. Delayed response optimal for non-suspicion. I sealed the notebook in a fireproof bag and placed it in the locked trunk of my car. I installed a small camera in the kitchen, behind the sugar jar. Ethan never touched the sugar. Too many carbs. That evening, I let the smoothie sit until he left for a run, then hit record and poured it down the drain. 2 days before the trip, a letter arrived addressed to Ethan. I don't normally open his mail, but he had opened all of mine for the last 2 months, so I did. Inside was a confirmation of home equity line of credit against the house. My signature was at the bottom. I hadn't signed anything in weeks. The notary line was forged. He'd taken out $80,000. I called Marcus. "I need a recommendation," I said. "For what?" "A lawyer." Ethan suggested I pack light. "Just your basics," he said. "It's all about disconnecting." "Perfect," I replied. I checked the memory card from the kitchen camera before we left. It showed Ethan in the early morning, blending the smoothie, carefully, lovingly, then dropping in 2 droplets of clear liquid from a glass pipette, stirring it slowly. I paused the video, zoomed in. He was smiling. Before I left the house, I hid 5 flash drives around the property. 1 in the shed, 1 inside the toilet tank, 1 under the planter box, 1 inside the dog's old collar, 1 in my bra. Ethan would find none of them. As we pulled onto the highway toward the cabin, Ethan reached over and squeezed my hand. "You've been so calm lately," he said. "I think this will be good for you." I looked out the window at the trees blurring by. "I feel like myself again," I said, and smiled. The cabin was farther than I expected. 3 hours past the last gas station. 1 bar of signal on my burner phone, then none. Trees crowding the road like they'd been waiting to swallow someone. Ethan hummed softly the whole way, tapping the steering wheel like he was counting minutes instead of miles. "You're going to love it," he said. I nodded. There was a suitcase in the trunk. It didn't have clothes in it, just folders, Ziplocs, photos, and a letter I'd written 2 weeks earlier in Ethan's handwriting. It began, "I couldn't handle her anymore." The cabin sat beside a frozen lake. Picture perfect. No neighbors for miles. I stepped out of the car and let the cold hit me like I'd never felt it before. Clean air, no exhaust, no voices, just silence. The kind that makes people think they're alone. Ethan carried our bags inside. I followed, scanning everything. 1 main room, fireplace, single hallway with a bedroom and bathroom. No security, no cameras, no cell service. Just the kind of place you could disappear into. And no one would ask why. I looked around and smiled. He thought he'd picked the trap, but I had picked the timing. We unpacked. Ethan put logs in the fire. I pretended not to notice he had a second bag, one he didn't open in front of me. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of wine. "To rest," he said. "To closure," I replied. He blinked, then smiled, clinked our glasses. I didn't drink mine. The first thing I did while he showered was plant the crawlspace camera. It was the size of a thumb with audio feed and motion sensors. I placed it under the floorboards beside the heater vent. The access panel had been loose when we arrived. Easy. The second thing I did was stage my old phone on the windowsill. It looked dead. It wasn't. It was recording every sound in the room, uploading audio to a satellite-linked burner cloud synced to Marcus's account. The third thing I did was leave a fake suicide letter in the glove box of the rental car, signed in my shaky handwriting. Dinner was quiet. Roasted chicken he'd packed himself. "I wanted it to feel special," he said, like a real reset. He poured me another glass of wine. I swirled it, sipped, just a taste. My heart rate monitor, strapped to my chest, logged the time and baseline vitals. "I've missed this version of you," he said. Calm, gentle. "I've missed her too," he smiled. "That's what this weekend is for. Rebuilding, trust, healing." He cut into the chicken like it owed him something. At midnight, I fake slept on the couch. Blanket wrapped tight, body limp, wine glass beside me half full. I heard him walk down the hall. Stop, breathe, then move into the kitchen. The blender whirred for 3 seconds. Not long enough to make anything. Just long enough to dissolve something. He poured it into a bottle, then returned to the bedroom. My breathing stayed slow. The camera under the floor caught everything. The next morning, he woke before me, or thought he did. I was already awake. He handed me the smoothie with a smile. "Breakfast," he said, "blueberry and flaxseed." I looked at the glass, let it sit in my hands. "Thank you." I didn't drink it. He watched me for a second too long, then turned away. While he chopped wood outside, I unscrewed the floor vent, retrieved the camera, swapped the card. I tucked it in the lining of my coat. Then I opened his second bag. Inside were a small Ziploc bag labeled Emergency 2 milligrams, an empty bottle of diazepam, 1 disposable phone, and a leather-bound folder with blank medical discharge forms. I didn't read them all. I didn't need to. I photographed everything, repacked it, then left a hairpin in the zipper placed just so. If he opened it again, I'd know. That night, the cabin felt colder. The fire burned louder. He poured wine again. This time, I drank it all. He smiled. "Too easily. You should lie down," he said. "Get some real sleep." I nodded, walked toward the bedroom, slowed my steps, pretended the wine had hit me harder than it had. I lay on the bed, eyes closed, arms folded across my stomach, and waited. The audio log started at 12:47 a.m. Ethan entered the room, whispered my name, touched my face. "You okay?" he asked. I didn't answer. He waited, then left. The mic caught the soft click of a cabinet, liquid pouring, a drawer opening. Something dropped, then silence. I waited until 3 a.m. I rose quietly, heart steady, movement slow, went to the kitchen, opened the trash bin. Inside, a crushed capsule, its foil still sticky with residue. I didn't touch it. I photographed it, logged the time, filed it under attempt 1, confirmed administered substance, no reaction, controlled variable. Then I returned to bed. The next morning, he looked surprised. "You slept hard," he said. "I don't remember falling asleep." "Perfect," he whispered. Later that day, I pretended to journal on the porch. He came behind me, placed his hands on my shoulders. "You're really getting better," he said. "You've been more pliable." That word stayed with me. Not happy, not healthy, pliable. I closed the journal, smiled up at him. I think this is working. That afternoon, I placed a tracker in the rental car's trunk. It synced with my burner. I also placed a copy of the crawlspace footage and the forged medical records in a waterproof envelope, sealed it, and left it behind the cabin's propane tank with a note. "If you find this," I didn't go willingly. CD. I didn't plan to die, but just in case. Ethan made dinner again. Pasta with cream sauce, wine, soft music on a Bluetooth speaker. Halfway through, he poured a shot of something clear into my glass. I watched his eyes as he did it. He didn't blink. I took a sip, then closed my eyes. "Thank you," I said, "for everything." He said nothing. At 3:28 a.m., my heart rate monitor spiked. I wasn't asleep. I was pretending. I heard him open the door, walk to the bed, call my name, twice. When I didn't respond, he whispered, "She's ready." Then he left the room. I rose, unplugged the camera, retrieved the memory card, packed the flash drives, journal, heart monitor, checked the suicide note in the car, still there. Everything was ready. I sent one text from the satellite relay Marcus gave me. "Cabin ready, recording complete, evidence prepared." Then I went back inside and waited. He returned carrying a bag of ice. "Thought it might help your head," he said. Took it. "Thanks," I said. "You always know what I need." He smiled. This was the last time he would. He woke up before I did. Or maybe he hadn't slept at all. I could feel it. The energy in the cabin was different. Not anxious, not urgent. Just finished. Like a man who had finally completed a task years in the making. "Want something to eat?" Ethan asked, already dressed, hair slicked back. He was wearing his courtroom voice again. "No," I said softly. "Still tired." He nodded. "Rest a bit longer. I'll start the car in an hour. We'll head home." "Sounds good." I rose once he stepped outside, pulled on my coat, slipped the waterproof envelope from under the propane tank, checked it, dry, untouched, placed it in my bag. I didn't need it anymore, but I wanted to watch his face when he realized I'd thought of everything. On the drive back, he didn't say much, kept his hand on my knee, tapping a rhythm I didn't recognize. "Feel clearer?" he asked. "More than I have in months." He smiled. "Sometimes it takes disconnecting to remember who you are." I looked out the window at the snow-tipped trees and whispered, "It really does." He pulled into our driveway just after sunset, helped carry the bags inside, set his briefcase down on the kitchen table. Same table where he'd drugged me for weeks. He poured me water. "Drink something. Keep your blood sugar up." I held the glass. Didn't sip. Instead, I walked to the living room, sat on the couch. "Can we talk for a second?" He paused. "Of course." He joined me. I turned to face him, legs crossed, hands folded, calm, even. "I know." He blinked. "Know what?" "I know what you've been doing." He didn't speak at first, just stared. I pulled the heart monitor from my bag, the crawlspace camera, the sealed smoothie samples, the printed emails, the forged therapy reports, the forensic lab result, the time-stamped photos of dying plants, the suicide note in his handwriting. Then I slid a flash drive across the table. "This has video of you drugging my drink while I was asleep. This one," I said, tapping a second, "has audio of you on the phone saying I was almost ready." Still, he said nothing. His pupils widened slightly, jaw clenched. Then he smiled. "You've been busy." I nodded. "You could have just left me." He laughed. "You think this is about leaving you?" He stood. "Number, I was fixing you. You were broken, useless. And when you finally let go, when you gave in to me, you were manageable. That's what you were always missing. Guidance." I didn't move. Just let him keep going. "You wanted someone to love you, Clara. Not argue with you, not pity you. You wanted peace. And I gave it to you. Carefully, slowly, one drop at a time." I held his gaze. "You were poisoning me." "No," he said flat. "I was making you quiet." There was a knock on the door. 3 short raps, then silence. Ethan froze. I didn't get up. I already knew who it was. Marcus entered first. Behind him, 2 plainclothes officers. One held a file, thick and sealed. The other carried a body cam, already blinking red. "Mr. Duval," the first one said, "we need to speak with you about a formal complaint filed regarding chemical tampering, medical fraud, and attempted coercive control of a vulnerable adult." Ethan turned to me, lips twitching. "This is performative," he said. "This won't stick. I'm a lawyer. I know how these cases play out." I stood and walked to the table, picked up the wine glass he'd handed me last night, pulled out a small baggie, sealed the glass inside. "You left prints." The officers didn't cuff him. Not yet. They asked him to sit, read him his rights, told him he was not under arrest, but he was being detained pending further review of evidence. He didn't yell, didn't lunge, just sat and stared at me. "You don't win," he said. "You just look like the victim. You always did." I leaned down. "I'm not the victim," I said. "I'm the archivist." They left with him 20 minutes later. I didn't watch the car drive away, just poured the last smoothie down the drain. That night I made dinner. Just soup. Something warm. I sat alone, candle lit, the cabin bag unpacked and evidence sorted. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from Ethan's boss. I hit play. "We've received formal notice of a pending criminal investigation into Ethan Duval. As of this message, he is suspended from the firm indefinitely. Please contact our HR office regarding any documentation you've submitted." I didn't call back. 2 days later, Marcus texted, "He tried to file a restraining order against you. Didn't go through. Judge denied it without hearing." Laughed, actually. The local news picked it up first. Wife collects forensic proof of domestic poisoning. Police investigating internal pharmaceutical connection. Husband denies wrongdoing. By the end of the week, 3 other women came forward. 2 from law school. 1 from a firm he worked for in DC. All of them had stories. All of them had been helped. All of them had walked away less than whole. The police came back with more questions. They weren't gentle this time. They'd found emails, burner transactions, undeclared withdrawals, even a pending offshore transfer. His firm cut ties. His bar license was frozen. By the end of the month, a full criminal case was built. And I never raised my voice once. The first public statement came from his law firm. Effective immediately, Ethan Duval is no longer affiliated with Reynolds and Meyer LLP. We are cooperating fully with ongoing investigations. 2 lines. No apology, no denial. That told me everything about what they found in his office. I didn't read the articles. People sent them to me. Links, screenshots, Reddit threads. Wife fakes obedience to expose husband's poisoning plan. Clara Duval, the quiet strategist. There were podcasts, commentary videos, a documentary proposal within 3 weeks. I deleted every email. I wasn't interested in being famous. I was interested in finishing. The charges came in waves: attempted poisoning of a dependent adult, fraudulent insurance manipulation, forgery of medical documentation, attempted identity control with coercive tactics, tampering with prescription substances, forgery of notarized documents, financial exploitation, 7 felonies, 3 misdemeanors, 1 civil lawsuit filed by me. Quietly. He pled not guilty. Of course he did. At the preliminary hearing, I sat 2 rows back. I didn't look at him. He looked at me. He wore a suit that no longer fit right. Jaw clenched, hair undone. He whispered something to his lawyer and shook his head 3 times before the session even began. Marcus sat beside me, arms crossed, silent. When the judge mentioned the suicide letter found in Ethan's possession, matching his wife's forged signature, Ethan flinched. When they played the audio of him whispering, "She's almost ready," he dropped his pen. When they read the results from my toxicology and showed time-lapse footage of a plant dying in hours from 1 poured smoothie, his lawyer didn't even object. They denied bail. The courtroom stayed quiet. So did I. Afterward, I stood on the courthouse steps. A journalist pushed forward. "Clara, are you planning to speak out publicly?" "No," I said. "Do you have any words for women going through something similar?" I looked her in the eye. "Document everything," I said, then walked past her. A week later, the civil suit finalized. The court awarded me $1.3 million in damages. From Ethan's personal account, retirement fund, and trust portfolio, I donated every cent. Women's shelters, legal support services, crisis advocacy training programs. I didn't want his money. I wanted it to be used to unbuild whatever part of the world had taught him this was acceptable. A woman emailed me from Chicago, said Ethan had dated her in law school, said he'd once replaced her anxiety meds with sleeping pills to help her rest. She'd thought she was imagining it. Now she knew better. Another wrote from Atlanta. He monitored everything I ate, told me I needed structure. I didn't see it until I left. I didn't even think it was abuse, not the kind with bruises. She thanked me. I didn't write back. The prosecutor called and asked if I wanted to attend sentencing. "Not really," I said. "But you're allowed to deliver a statement. Most victims do." I corrected him. "I'm not the victim." He paused. "Understood." Still, I showed up. Ethan entered in cuffs, eyes sunken. He'd aged fast in 6 months. His public defender read a prepared statement about mental illness, stress, trauma from a difficult childhood. None of that was in evidence. None of it mattered. When it was my turn, I stood, walked to the front, faced him directly for the first time since the cabin. I said one sentence. You underestimated the person you tried to erase. Then I walked back to my seat. He got 19 years. Minimum. Eligible for parole in 12. By then, I'll be somewhere he can't spell. The media tried to keep the story alive. The woman who outsmarted her own husband. Psychological warfare at home. The Duval case breakdown. One outlet offered me $60,000 for an exclusive interview. I declined. Another sent a ghostwriter offer for a memoir. I sent it back with a note. No, I'm not the story. 3 months later, a local trauma center opened a new wing. Anonymous donation. Plaque read, for those who were made quiet, but not small. No one knew it was me. I liked it that way. My lawyer, the second one, called to say we could reopen a suit against the pharmacy that sold the counterfeit vitamins. I told her no. The ones responsible had already paid. Marcus sent me one last package, a USB drive. Inside, final audio logs, unused surveillance footage, his full report. I burned it, not out of shame, out of completion. My neighbor asked me what I was going to do next. I said, plant something. I tore up the flower bed behind the house, buried every plant I'd tested, the cactus, the violet, the last gold-edged pothos. Then I bought new soil, not because the old was poisoned, but because it had memory. I never touched another smoothie. I moved without telling anyone. No social media post, no forwarding address. Just a quiet transfer of utilities and a small moving van that arrived at 6 a.m. and was gone before the neighborhood stirred. The new house isn't large. 2 bedrooms, 1 level. Salt air in the walls and white curtains that breathe with the ocean wind. I don't have cameras. No motion sensors. No glass break alarms. Not because I trust the world again. Because I trust me. The kitchen is the smallest room in the house. I like that. It means less space to lose things. It means I see every item, every drawer, every movement. I keep one blender. It's manual. Hand crank, no cord. Takes longer, but I like the sound. There are no smoothies. I drink water. Sometimes tea. Mostly just silence. I still get letters. Some kind. Some hungry. Some asking for advice, interviews. Just a moment of your time. I don't answer any of them. They write to the version of me that survived something. But I didn't survive. I ended it. I wake up when the sun rises, not when an alarm says so. Some mornings I take long walks without direction. I memorize street names I'll never need. I nod at neighbors but don't ask for theirs. There's a garden out back, new soil, fresh beds. It's nothing elaborate, just a rectangle of earth I turned over with my own hands. I planted only things that bloom in silence. White tulips, rosemary, lavender, one yellow rose bush that hasn't flowered yet, that's fine. I'm not in a rush. One corner of the yard holds a mound, small, rounded, unmarked. Beneath it lies the first plant that died, the one that told me the truth before I was ready to hear it. I buried it before the trial. I never marked it because it doesn't need a name. It knows what it did for me. I thank it every time I water the rose bush. I kept only one item from the past, a single folder labeled for when he tries again. It holds nothing he didn't already see, just copies, photos, 2 passwords I don't use. It's not for safety, it's for memory. It lives in a fireproof box under the floorboard near the boiler. I check it once a month, then forget it exists. 6 months after the sentencing, I got a knock on the door. Middle-aged woman. Looked like someone's aunt. She held her phone up, shaking slightly. I saw your name online, she said. He tried it with me too. Years ago. I didn't have proof. I didn't invite her in, but I nodded and said, I believe you. That was enough. She left crying. I closed the door and didn't feel haunted by her story. Healing isn't about being better. It's about no longer needing to explain. I kept my old journal, the one in the textbook. Every page has a timestamp, every photo printed with matte ink. I burned the originals, the surveillance files, the heart rate logs. But I kept the journal. One entry reads, don't let him rush you. Wait. Let him think you're dimming. Another says, you are not what he made of you. And the final page, written the day I left the courthouse, reads, it's over. Not because he stopped, because I did. Sometimes I read that page again, not because I need to remember, but because it doesn't hurt to. I got a letter from the Department of Corrections, a form, generic. Inmate Duval eligible for parole review in 2036. Would you like to be contacted for hearing updates? I checked. No. Signed it, sealed the envelope, didn't look back. There's no music in my house, no TV, just one bookshelf, one kettle, one chair by the window where I watch the sea move without instruction. I like the way it doesn't ask anything of me. One day the rose bush will bloom. I don't care when. I don't check mirrors for signs of damage. There's none left. When I sleep now, I sleep without dreams. When I wake, I remember where I am. That's all I need. People think revenge is about fire. It isn't. It's about walking out of the flames and never looking back to see what's still burning. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.